You just got out of a relationship, date yourself. People will look at you a bit weird because you go, when you turn up to a restaurant, you say a table for one. And they'll be like, who cares what anyone thinks? You're dating yourself. You're showing yourself that you are worth it. When you realize, I can promise you this right now, when you realize what your actual worth is, and you only get to do that by being alone and spending time with yourself and working on yourself, will you realize how you deserve to be treated. And then you will stop taking treatment that you don't deserve. You won't end up in bad relationships anymore or anything else because you'll be like, no, I don't deserve this.
In 1837, Horace Mann created the education system, a system at the time designed to pump out factory workers and professors. The same system that is still being used today in the 21st century. Now, Mann's system is backfiring. We are being moulded by the same industrial system that has existed for close to 200 years. That system delivers us into a digital economy that has no need of our outdated skills. This isn't our teachers' fault. This isn't the government's fault. This is due to a rapidly changing world full of technology and unforeseen circumstances. And us Gen Zs are caught in the middle. Welcome to the Driven Young podcast, the podcast for stressed, overwhelmed young Australians, teaching you practical life skills you can implement now to set yourself up in life. And now your host, Byron Dempsey.
Welcome back to the Driven Young podcast, and today we are talking all things romantic relationships, specifically for the younger generation. Today I'm joined again by Alisdair Barrie. He's built a following as the relationships dude who has over 750,000 followers online, where he shares his opinions, stories, and advice on relationships, among other topics. This is actually my second episode with Alistair. We did one a while back, episode 56 on personal development, and right after that we decided to do another one on relationships, so here we are. In this episode, we cover Alistair's relationship history, why we are often forced into friendships, the dangers of emotional abuse, online dating, Tinder and catfishing, the goal of a relationship, the difference between being alone and lonely, and so much more. This episode is really great and a little different to my usual style, so I'd love to know what you think. As per usual, feel free to DM me on Instagram if you enjoy the show. Please consider leaving a rating or review on Apple Podcasts. Check out my new podcast show on sexual assault and consent with Brent Sanders if you haven't already. And if you are in Sydney and you want me to come speak at your school, I'm starting to do a lot more school talks. All the links will be in the show notes below or in my Instagram bio, which makes it nice and easy. Now, over to Alistair. Alistair, welcome so much to the podcast. Back for part 2.
Thanks, Brian. Glad to be here.
So obviously we've just finished off episode 1 with you, which was, I don't even know what we're going to title it, but we talked about university, college, personal development, so many different things. And then we brought up relationships and thought it'd be fun to do a whole episode on relationships.
Yep.
We're going to like hookup culture, online dating, get through a few stories, just get into that world. I know you put out a lot of content about this on TikTok, so you built up an audience of people who, really enjoy this sort of stuff.
Yep.
So let's start off with your dating history, your relationship history, and why do you talk about this stuff? Like, why is it so passionate for you?
I mean, my dating history is an interesting one, particularly with the content and stuff that I put out. A lot of people expect me to have been in long-term relationships and that sort of thing. That is not true. I've never had a relationship that's gone more than maybe 6 or 7 months. And that's because I end up picking the wrong people and go all in on someone who isn't all in on me. So, but yeah, basically throughout school, I maybe was in one relationship at the point where you're together, but then you wouldn't hang out with each other. It was the classic school sort of thing. So that was kind of how it was for that. That was in year 8 or something. And then I never really got a girlfriend after that. They were almost, but never really came to fruition in that area. And then when I was at university, I tried to date a girl in another city, back in my hometown in Newcastle. And that ended up with her just going and getting with someone else kind of behind my back, and then them going and actually dating properly. So there was that, and that broke me pretty badly after that one. And then there was a girl 2 years ago who I worked with, and she had very recently gotten out of a relationship, and so I basically got thrown into this weird situation where it wasn't fully over him, but was trying to encouraging me to take a chance on her, and then spending 10 hours a day because we worked together in the same team.
Yeah, awkward.
So that was all like that. And so that ended up in, again, like pretty crappy like situation. And so basically the reason why I create content around this on TikTok is because I know what it feels like to not be appreciated or anything else and feel like completely alone in a relationship, like in like relationships and stuff. So I want to help people not be that. And so like, even though I haven't been necessarily in long-term relationships, I've been around long-term relationships with my brothers being in them and that sort of thing. And so like through other people, I've experienced a lot and I know what it looks like to have a relationship work out. Like my parents are both like still happily married after 35 years. So I know what it looks like and what it takes to make it work. I just haven't found the right person, I guess. And so like, yeah.
Yeah, nice. And so it sounds like we were talking about this before. I personally, when it comes to getting in a relationship, have a very high standard. Like, I'm not going to get in a relationship with someone that I can't see myself being with long term, really, because I feel like it's a waste of time. 100%. It sounds like you're kind of the same when it comes to a serious relationship, like a 6 months, 1 year.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know if I use this as an excuse or not, but I basically I work an incredibly large amount and I'm like very, 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 very dedicated to like achieving like success in my life. And so for me to give up the time that like for me working and that sort of thing to like focus on someone else, like that had to be extremely like worth my time, I guess. And so I'm very particular about that because not only are you giving over your time and effort and all that sort of thing as well, that energy, if it doesn't play out and it doesn't work, like you then have many like months of like going through heartache and not being focused and doing all those sorts of things. And so like the actual aftermath of it, of making a bad decision is so detrimental to my personal growth and everything else. And every time I've been in a relationship that doesn't work out, my personal development takes a dive and I just go like 5 steps backwards. And so like, it's just like a big commitment for me, and it's not something that I want to like rush into because it is so important and it is so demanding and that sort of things, and people just don't like understand that sort of side of relationships and stuff. And so I'm very, very, very particular, and I want to make sure that we're going to be aligned and we can actually build towards something that can be potentially a forever thing,
Yeah, it's so crazy you say that. Like that's the same as me. So when me and my ex broke up like 4 years ago, it was in high school, but it hurt. It was like a year and a half we've been dating for. I was out of action for like 2 weeks. I was just in bed. I could not focus. I couldn't work. And I was like, man, if this was to happen now, I need to be in like peak state when I'm interviewing people. Yeah. I need to be in a good mental space to do a lot of what I do. And I'm like, if I get close to someone, and as you mentioned, if they like hurt you, that wipes you out for a period of time.
2 weeks would be super easy. It was only 2 weeks.
No. It was 2 weeks where I couldn't do anything. Yeah. And then it was still
constantly on my mind for like, and this is the thing, like you might say, oh, it's only 6 months, but this girl I was like working with, so I was around her 10 hours a day, at least 5 days a week. We're spending more time together than most married people would. So we've like, it's like the extent of probably being like a 2-year relationship. It's just so compacted down. Like we were going on like dates every day, like doing all that sort of stuff. So there was a lot of time spent together. And so like, that completely like messed me up. Like afterwards, like I was just like, for at least 6 months it took me to actually like get over that, and it didn't help from like her messaging me like once a month randomly and that sort of thing. And that's kind of like, it was pretty like, so just kind of kept reliving it and stuff.
And that was like the catalyst to go, okay, I know how people feel. I've been through this. I'm going to start putting out content so people can hopefully, I guess, get some value or see, prevent themselves from making the same mistakes that I did.
100%. And so like, and like I posted some relationship stuff on TikTok when I first got started, and that content did really well, and I had more questions on the back of that. So I was like, this is something that people really need. It's not even just like, and I'm like, I actually kind of enjoy making this content because I feel like I've got a value to add. Because there are just so many people who don't actually understand like relationships and what they should be and that sort of thing, and just get caught out in these situations where they get used and like abused and stuff, and don't actually realize you actually can be fine being alone is another thing within relationships as well. So,
and to clarify, when you say abuse, emotional abuse is a part of that as well.
Absolutely.
I think when we say abuse, they think, oh, I'm not getting abused, but you could be getting emotionally abused. They're not through a variety of different things, but it's not as clear as physical abuse.
100%. Something as simple as like your partner not supporting you in the things that you want to do on a daily basis. Going through that is mental abuse.
100%.
Like if the person you're with should be supporting you in the things that you want to do with your life. If they're not doing that and they're like basically like talking down to you or saying that what you're doing up to is stupid or anything along those lines, that's a level of abuse, because eventually that penetrates your mind and you start like doubting your own self and what you can achieve. And that's not what a relationship is there for. It's meant to build, like, help you become even better than you already are.
Yeah. And especially if you're like out in the world, you're already going up against everyone else. If you're in the
100%.
business world, you're fighting everyone else. When you come home, if you don't have that support from your partner, that's tough. Like, you want to recharge. You want to go home, recharge for the next day.
100%.
If you go home and they're supportive, that's recharging you as opposed to draining you even further.
Facts. 100%. And like that even like portrays out into like relationships, not just like in that sort of area, but my entire life. Like if I just refuse to surround myself with people who don't support me. You know what I mean? Like it's everything. Like if someone does too much of like trying to take away from what I'm up to and that sort of thing, I'll just cut. Just cut them. Like it's just how it goes.
And I think when I talk about this quite a bit, and it's really tough when you're in high school because you're stuck with those people.
Absolutely.
And you can't really cut them. Like, we have the freedom now because we're in the real world, the adult world, where we can kind of decide who our friends are. If that's a decision we want to make. But in high school, it can be a bit more difficult.
For sure.
And so, you can still do it. I think if you can start cutting people at a young age and focus on having people who enrich your life and bring more value to you, and you go up together, a rising tide lifts all boats.
Yeah.
So if you lift up together, that'll change your life. It's changed my life for sure.
Absolutely. And I think the thing to think about is when you're in school and that sort of thing is, would you really be friends with these people if you weren't around them all the time? And I can tell you right now, I only have one really good friend, and he was just basically my best friend since I was in year 5, since I was 11 years old. He is still my best friend to this day. And basically everyone else I went to school with, haven't spoken to him hardly since I left school. And that's just how it goes. Like, I was only friends with them because I was around them every day. And so it's like, now that I've left school, I realize, well, that's actually toxic. And even the girls that I was like obsessed with or really liked at school just don't care anymore. Like,
and let me make it. I want to make it clear, because this is such a great point. You don't have to connect with everyone.
No.
Like, if you're in high school, I feel like as humans we feel like, we've got to connect with everyone, or we fake it. We just fake it when we're not connecting. It's like, it's totally okay if you meet someone and you guys don't gel as well as you do with other people. You don't have to be in each other's lives. Just move on. Focus on people who you do gel with.
Facts.
And that's like, I think that's such an important thing to recognize. The other thing I heard was, if you recognize that out of every 10 people you meet, one person will hate you, if you have that mindset, it's understand that like not everyone is going to love you. You can't please everyone. By pleasing everyone, you please no one.
Yeah, absolutely.
But let's get into the meat.
Yeah.
So
let's do it.
You've mentioned you haven't been in a long-term relationship, but you've dated a lot. You've been through a lot. You put a lot of information that hits well and is really relatable to a lot of, I guess, younger girls, younger guys.
Yeah.
Did you want to talk about online dating? Because obviously, I guess we're still in the pandemic, so online dating has kind of spiked since that.
Yep.
It's also, massive. Like, I've gone on more online dates than I have not online dates, I think.
That's big.
Yeah, I think so.
I
don't know the exact math, but I would guess that.
It's a super interesting one, right? Because like, I have so many different like opinions around online dating and stuff, and I'm supportive of it. I just think that there's so many different things that go into whether like someone is actually like the amount of, and I think different platforms are better than others as well. I don't know if I've ever had a successful date come off Tinder at all. Because I find that a lot of the time, like, you can match with people and then you message them and they just never get back to you. It seems to be a huge ego boost thing. Like, I could get him or whatever it is. And then they just like never respond or whatever. It's like, well, now they got that validation that I am good enough or whatever. Then they just, and that's it. Yeah. And so like, I think there's a lot of that going on in that area as well.
Which is so toxic.
100%. And there's people faking it all over that as well. So like, I literally have a story of I get DMs all the time. There's a account going around of me on Tinder using my photos and stuff.
Your name?
Different name. Goes by the name Aaron. I'm like, apparently my name's Aaron and I'm 30 years old. I'm definitely not 30 years old and my name is definitely not Aaron. And I get DMs all the time from people being like, yo, there's someone is using your profile or whatever, your photos and stuff. And then I ended up getting a DM, which is like super sad, one time from this girl in America who, and this is what baffles me though. Like, what are the chances? So she's in America, and then she just randomly, because of this pandemic, decides to set a location to Sydney.
This was happening, Tinder Passport, in the beginning of lockdown. Tinder opened up so you could go to any country.
Yeah.
There's so many people in Sydney.
100%. And so anyway, this girl basically, I get a DM. She's like, hey, just want to like know, like, have you and I been chatting like recently, like, or whatever? And I'm like, no, like, who are you or whatever? And she's like, oh, I've matched with you on Tinder. I'm like,
oh,
no, I don't think you did. And then she's like, or whatever, back and forth. And then it turns out that she's basically matched with someone who's pretending to be me. They end up having like, for like 2 weeks or whatever, just constantly going back and forth, doing like audio FaceTimes and stuff, like chatting for hours a day, whatever, like getting into like heaps of like personal stuff or whatever.
Right.
And then it turns out to not even be a real person.
Catfish.
Like catfished hardcore. And so catfishing is something like I've been catfished by guys pretending to be girls on Tinder and stuff. And you just like, and the way like I find out is because like, you like, and where I become careful, and what this actual story of this girl said, like, taught me, is just like FaceTime them.
Yeah.
Actually see their face. Like, actually make sure that they are who they say they are. And it's such an important thing, because so many, like, if there are fakes and stuff, well, they're obviously not going to agree to FaceTime you.
Yeah.
And I caught someone out because I was like, let's FaceTime quickly before we meet up or whatever. Like, and it was just like, I had a reason for it and just refused to do it and just kept saying no. And I'm like, all right, well then, what the hell is this? And then it ends up being a guy, and I'm like, well, that's just like, I don't understand how you then turn around and think that, like, even when, like, say we did meet up, what's the mentality? What's the plan there? Like, as soon as I find out you're a guy, I'm done. Like, I'm out. I'm like, nah, what do you mean? So like, there's a lot of different things in that area. And so she and I were like chatting, and I was like, yo, why don't we just jump on a FaceTime for this girl who was ever, so I'm like, at least you can have like some form of an experience of actually chatting to me or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, and it sucks because like, well, she and he were connected way better than like she and I did. Like we like weren't that like close of a match or anything like that. But like, you know, like it's just unfortunate that people are like having to like, or feel like they need to fake who they are to like get the attention of other people or whatever.
And then you get into catfishing, where it's not actually catfishing as a person, but you look a lot better in your profile pictures or something.
I've had that too. Yeah.
I've heard stories of like a girl, and he went on a date with her, and she was about 10-15 kilos heavier than her profile, which is just like, once again, what's your plan? What's your plan when he rocks up? It's really uncomfortable for him, and vice versa with guys.
I don't know. It's just like photoshopping images and that sort of stuff. It's just not like, it's not fair, I guess. But I guess let's turn it on the other side. There's a funny twist which bit me in the ass, basically. I also have people who don't believe, because I've got a social media following, that don't believe that I could be on Hinge.
Right, yeah.
So I matched with this girl on Hinge, and I just like throw banter around at the start. I don't take it very seriously, because if you go on there, you take it too seriously, then people again will get bored and be like, whatever. So I'm like, I just like,
you don't want to know what they're doing the first thing. You want to have banter first, and then tell me what you do. Actually, I want to meet you in person, then tell me what you're doing.
Exactly. And so then so then this girl, like, I matched with her, I was throwing banter at her, then she DMs me on Instagram and be like, yo, I think I'm talking to, like, someone's pretending to be you on Hinge. And I'm like, lol, let's play this out. Let's see what happens. So I'm like, yo, let me... I was like, no way, seriously? Like, what are they saying? So
What's his name?
Yeah, and I'm like, I fully played both sides of the thing. And so she was like, and like, it was just a bit of fun. I don't think she saw it as fun because I wasn't giving her a straight answer, but I was like, oh, you should totally meet up with him, blah, 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 all this sort of stuff. And then ends up biting me in the butt because I actually had matched with someone who I like actually really liked on Hinge on this account. And she didn't like, and one of the reasons I actually liked her is because she didn't have social media, but like, because she's like really into her personal development and all that sort of stuff. And so she was like, I actually don't like, she'd had Instagram, but then she was deleting it or whatever. And we just like connected really well. And so I had no way of getting in contact with her, right? So this girl ends up reporting me
outside of Hinge.
Like this girl in Hinge ends up like, I had no way of contacting her. And so this girl who I've pretended that I'm not like, I'm playing both sides, she ends up reporting my account for being fake and ends up getting my Hinge account deleted. So then I lose that. I lose the opportunity to catch up with, like, to meet up with this girl. And I'm like, damn. So like, that's a whole, so that's like, that's the karma, I guess, for doing that. But yeah, people are very suspicious on online dating and that sort of thing. So I definitely think you got to play it safer. I definitely like only connecting with people who typically have like some form of social media account attached.
They have to, otherwise it's too risky, especially if you're a young girl.
Yeah,
like
facts.
Get their Instagram, because you can't fake an Instagram unless it's like brand new. If you go back through my Instagram, it's like 6 years old. I'm tagged in all these photos. You can't fake that.
It's the tagging in photos and stuff. That's another thing that got me about this girl that was pretending to be a guy. Basically, I mean, guy. Sorry, let's reverse that. This guy that was pretending to be a girl. He went to his Instagram account and it didn't add up. Like the account was only like from like October, which is a few months, but then posted photos and didn't tag the friends in it. Yeah. Had no friends commenting on stuff, had no tagged photos.
Super sus.
And then like went to who she was following, and it was only guys that were all like attractive and like that, and like you could tell like every single one of them was like that. It was just like just didn't add up, you know.
Very sus. But
yeah,
also
just be like careful about it. But
you mentioned like FaceTime. If you can get a FaceTime, great.
Fact.
And look, I hate Snapchat, but it's actually good for catfishing in this scenario. If you get their snap and they're sending you selfies and stuff, okay, great. Now you know they're real. And once again, you can't really fake a selfie.
Yeah, one of the classic things that I used to do would be like before FaceTime and stuff was a thing, is I used to get them to send me a photo of a fork on their head.
Oh, yeah.
Do like a selfie with that, and then if they could send that back, then you know that they're legit. If they couldn't, they refuse to do it, then you're like, nah, this is sus, and then move on. So like...
and it's not offensive. Like if they get offended by that, it's like they're fake.
Yeah,
why would anyone get offended for that? It's like you're just being safe.
100%.
And it's especially because I have a majority female audience. So for young girls, like with online dating, you got to be careful.
Yeah, for sure.
And also, in my opinion, and like it's totally up to you, if you're not on Tinder or Hinge to meet up and you're just on there for the ego boost, get off. It's not gonna. It's gonna make you feel worse. Short term, you'll feel better. Long term, you'll feel worse.
Facts. 100%. It's just like
I've seen girls
there's a lot of that,
and
that's why I don't use. That's why I refuse to use Bumble, because Bumble, the girl goes first. A majority of the time, the girls don't want to go first.
Yeah,
and they just go. So it ends up just being, you end up just having this huge list of girls in your thing who are all just not available, like can't do it because they just don't message you first.
Or they just say, "Hey, how are you?" And then
that's another classic thing that I think is so amazing about it, is girls are all about, oh, you've got to send me this crazy good opening line and everything else, and they're like, yo, if it's not original, if you just say hey, then I'm not interested. Then they hit you with hey
on Bumble,
and I'm like, what? No, you can't have this double standard.
I know. I'm exactly the same. On Bumble, I reckon sometimes they are really good. Sometimes I get some really creative messages.
100%.
90% are just hey, how are you? Hey, how are you? And look, the problem with hey, how are you is I'll still respond to that, but I don't want to, because it's it means we're going to go into a very boring conversation. Like 100%. Hey, I'll be like, good now that you're here, and just like have a bit of flirting, have a bit of banter going, instead of I'm good, thanks, how was your day? Oh, great, my Australia day was great. Oh man, it's so boring.
I'm usually like, even if they do open with that, I'll usually just go to their profile, find something interesting, and just not even answer the question that they've said, and then just go on with something that is just like super random or whatever. Because at least then you actually play into something that can be interesting.
Exactly.
Otherwise, it's just boring, and I just don't have time for like, hey, how are you conversations. It's just not my thing.
And don't be hypocrites. Like, don't complain about guys sending you boring messages and then do the same when you're on Bumble.
Facts.
Or the girls would, they'll complain and they'll never even message a guy first.
Yeah.
It's like, I actually saw a TikTok and she was bi, and she was like, she had like a meme. It was basically me trying to, the Charlie D'Amelio is like, let me in, please. Yeah. She's saying that audio, and she's like, when I'm swiping with girls, because no one's matching with her. And all these bisexual girls are in the comments going, I can't match with any girls. And underneath their comments are guys going, imagine how we feel. Yeah. Like, that's how we feel.
Yeah.
Like, man, I had very few guys who like Tinder. I don't like Tinder.
Tinder's like a waste of time, and I actually, I was meant to do like a brand deal with Tinder at one point. I don't know if I'm supposed to talk about it, but anyway, we will. And they were like trying to get it to like sell it as like really, this really positive thing or whatever. And I'm just like, well, actually what I want to talk to you about, like what I will make, like the content that I want to make is around catfishing and the fact that someone, and like what you should do is like, what are you going to do for 2021 that's going to be ensure that you're going to have success on the platform? And I'm like, make sure that the account's verified. Make sure they have some form of social media attached, something along those lines which verifies that they are who they say they are, so that you don't get catfish? And I'm like, because I want to talk to that, because I think that'll actually add value. And they're like, don't do it.
Yeah.
No, we're not having that content because it paints Tinder and I'm like, it's not actually painting you in a bad light. I'm actually trying to, like,
it's a good light.
Like, and I'm like, yo, do what you guys actually want people to do on the platform, which is verify themselves, so that they can actually, like, push a better image for it, but didn't want to do it. And so the brand deal didn't go ahead because I'm not interested in selling something that's just not of interest. Like, that it's just, like, topical, that paints it in the good light. No, I want to educate people. Like, that's what my platform is about. Educating people on how to have better relationships.
Yeah. And that's why I think Hinge is the best one, in my opinion.
For sure.
And because Hinge gives you prompts and, like, there's a lot more stuff to play off.
100%.
It's really, really well done from a business perspective, how they played it out. And I find it's just nicer. The girls are nicer there. They respond better. I don't know. It just works better for me, Hinge. So Hinge is great. And I find girls often message me a lot more on Hinge.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. So that's a great online platform. But
But again, because it allows you to create a profile.
Yeah.
So they can actually work out if they're interested in you or not. It's not just, oh, do you look good? Oh, what are the prompts that you respond to that actually, because, like, you can go on Tinder and every single profile, there'll be no caption. Like, there'll be nothing.
Yeah.
There'll be nothing there.
Yeah.
So you're just like, it's based solely on appearance.
Yeah.
Which means
it
that's
could be
why.
catfishy anyway.
Could be catfish. And it's like, that's lame. Like, that's not what actually, like, that's not what this is for. So, yeah.
Yeah. And when it comes, I don't know if you'd agree with this, but I feel like the goal when you're online dating is to get their social media, or to get their Instagram, to get something so you can verify and go from there. That's how I found. I don't think I've ever gone on a date where we just went straight from the platform without getting a social media, because, as you mentioned, it can be a little bit sus if you haven't got their social media.
For sure, 100%. Yeah, I'm usually pretty quick to, like, as soon as we match, and, like, if I can get their last name or something, I'll just go straight to Instagram and just check. I don't even necessarily grab the Instagram. I just want to make sure that that it's legit, and then I'm happy to chat on the platform for a while. Only because I find that if people go onto Instagram too early, then their mentality shifts. There's actually a shift in mentality of, hey, I'm on Hinge because I'm trying to, like, chat and date or whatever it is, to Instagram, which is like, oh, let's play hard to get, let's do those sorts of things, leave someone on red, let's do all those sorts of, like, behavior, and it gets caught up in that area. So, like, for me, it's like, no, let's keep it on Hinge for longer until, like, there's actually more of a connection, and then pull them across to Instagram later, so that you're like, all right. And that's basically more like the final planning stages of going out on a date, because it's easier to know that they're going to be able to respond and stuff in that point, rather than having to check Hinge, because I just find, like, a lot of the time the conversation will just die as soon as it gets to Instagram.
The good thing about Instagram, and look, we're getting into details here, but you've got the stories, and so if the conversation dies, it's such an easy opener if they post stories, like, for sure.
Yeah, you can, like, start it up again, and you can do something like, you can play off other things in their profile and stuff. So it's good.
But so that's kind of online dating. So I guess we've covered, and but once you mentioned on Instagram with being seen and stuff, and get into that whole world, and it's like, I actually turned it off, and I would recommend turning it off. Instagram has, like, in your stories, whether they were active 10 minutes ago or something. I've switched that off so I can't see it and they can't see me. The worst thing is when someone hasn't responded to you for 4 hours and you saw they were active 10 minutes ago or something. It's like, especially if you're 16, 17, 18, this stuff is fueling our minds. 100%. And we're going, why haven't they responded to me? They were online 10 minutes ago. We don't know. For all we know, they opened up the app for 1 minute and then they went back.
And they recorded a story. Like, it's perfectly fine to be someone to use the app. I do it all the time. I'll be on there and it might take me all day to get back to someone on a DM. And it's not like I don't care. It's just I'm using, because I use my Instagram for business as well.
So do I,
So, like, that's another thing. And I like to... it's also good with, like, Hinge and stuff. You can kind of keep the two, like, separate for a little bit longer and things. But turn that off 100% active. Like, that used to get me in so much trouble with the girl that I was, like, working with, because she'd be like, oh, you were active this long ago and you couldn't respond to my DM or whatever. And I'm like, what the frick? You just went 4 hours and you were active the whole time and you didn't respond to me, and now you want to turn around and have a go at me for that? It's just like, it creates fights and anxiety and stuff, which just doesn't need to happen.
Unnecessary fights. Unnecessary.
Like, there was so much unnecessary crap in that relationship. That's just...
I'm a big fan of ignorance is bliss.
Yeah.
Like, I don't need to know that you're online 30 minutes ago.
No.
You can respond when you want.
Yeah.
If you go out with the girls, I don't need to know about all the guys who hit on you. Like, I don't care. I trust you.
Yeah.
But I don't need to hear about all the, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm a big fan of ignorance is bliss if you trust them. Only if you trust them.
Yeah, you got to trust them. But again, like, for me, then we like let's go down that rabbit hole. For me, like, without trust, there is no relationship.
Yeah.
And I think once trust is ruined, it's gone forever. Like, you can't, like, so for me, my big thing on, like, would I ever date someone who's cheated on me? No. For me, as soon as someone cheats on me, that relationship, that's finished forever. Like, there's no coming back. Like, we're done. And a lot of that is to do with the fact that, like, I won't trust you anymore. And, like, I don't want to be in a relationship where I have to be, doesn't matter like how much you promise me that you're going to be different, you're going to do all those sorts of things. You still made a conscious decision to betray my trust. And don't tell me that it wasn't a conscious decision, because you are in control of your decisions at all times.
Yeah. Don't tell me you were drunk or whatever.
100%. Like, that's just not an excuse for me. Like, and so, if I don't want to be on edge the whole time whenever you go out with the girls, or whenever you like hang out with someone, or you work on a project with somebody, or do anything like that you're going to be that you might cheat on me. Like, I don't want that kind of paranoia. That's not fair on me. Like, because I'm like, I know in myself that I would never do that.
Yeah. And so, like, anyone listening, don't let yourself go through that.
100%.
It's just human nature. If someone cheats on you once, for the next 2, 3, for the rest of your life almost, you're going to be in the back of your mind. You're going to be like, when they're out,
are they going to do it?
Yeah, they're going to do it again.
And majority of the time, once someone works out that they can get away with it, they do it again and again and again. And I have friends, or more ex-friends, because I just don't want to be associated with that kind of behavior, that will like just repeat offenders in that area. And it's disgusting for me. I don't want to hear about it. I don't want to know about it. Like, it's just like, yeah, it's pretty crazy. Like, to be honest, like, it's just not cool, to be honest. And like, but again, like, you're just going to be putting yourself through a lot of pain. And majority of the relationships where someone's cheated end up falling over anyway, like some point down in the future.
Yeah.
And you've already still more attached. You've gone through a lot more emotional like turmoil and a whole bunch of other things for no real benefit.
Rip the Band-Aid off.
100%. Just get rid of it. It's fine. Like, you'll find someone else. There is definitely, I can give you this with 100% confidence, that if there is someone out there who is willing to treat you exactly how you want to be treated and how you deserve to be treated, and is not going to use and abuse your trust and other things and take advantage of you.
And don't settle for less.
100%.
Why would you settle for less?
Exactly.
You got one life in this world.
Exactly.
Like, why would you settle for less than someone who's perfect for you?
Exactly.
There's so many people on this planet. There has got to be someone out there that is going to be perfect for you.
Facts.
Like, the way I see it, like, everyone's a 10 out of 10 to someone.
Yeah.
You know?
Facts.
Your girlfriend, your boyfriend, whatever, should be a 10 out of 10 to you all the time. And I see it all the time. Actually, even I went on not a date, just grabbed dinner with this girl, a friend of mine, and she settled. They're settling. They have a relationship, they meet one person, and they start settling. It's like, why? Have a higher standard for yourself. This guy is clearly, like, she clearly doesn't even like him, but she's just like, I think it's the alone thing.
It's the alone thing. Let's get into the alone thing.
Yeah, that's a great topic. Like, we kind of mentioned in the previous episode, but there is lonely and alone, and there's a difference.
100%. And so, like, there's a major difference. And I've spoken to many, like, with like my platform and stuff, I've spoken to a lot of particularly women who I've chatted to about this, who just seem to like either bounce from relationship to relationship, never like finding what they want because they're scared to be alone, and they just continually get hurt, and then they're more scared to be alone. But what they're confusing between alone and lonely. Because being alone means you get to focus on yourself. You get to like build yourself up. You get to build confidence in yourself. You get to learn more about yourself. You actually get to a place where you actually get to learn to love yourself. And I don't believe you can learn to love yourself when you're with someone else. I think that's incredibly unfair for you to go into a relationship when you don't love yourself and then put that on someone else.
Yes, you're relying on them.
100%. So you shouldn't be relying on anyone for your own internal happiness. Your own internal happiness is your responsibility, right? And then it should be realistically two internally happy people coming together to create a bond, which then allows both people to be better.
Feed off each other.
Exactly. Feed off each other to excel even greater and become even better, right? So when you get out of a relationship, you're alone, but you're not necessarily lonely. Because, there will be some times where you're like, damn, I wish I had someone who I could be with right now, or could take me on dates, or could cuddle me, or do any of those things. Sure, that might be sometimes, and that's okay. But being in a relationship with somebody and not being able to be your true self, and not being able to do what you want to do in life and be supported and all those sorts of things, and have someone judge you for you being you, that's lonely. That's so lonely, because then you're with someone, you're in an environment where you're supposed to be feeling loved and everything else, and you're not getting any of that back. You're not being loved. You're just like literally made to feel like you're worthless. And that's not a relationship. That's actually teaching you that love means to not be valued. Love means
just to be
to just be with someone, to be hurt, to be all those things. And that's what you associate with love. With love is actually the complete opposite of that. It's anything but that. And so like the choice between being alone and being lonely with someone else, you've got to pick alone every day.
Yeah.
And I just truly believe that.
And that's why top performers in the world do a lot of meditation. They make time in the day to be alone. And 100%. I've been trying to do that a lot more. And it's very difficult for this generation because we're never alone. We've got technology on us all the time.
There's actually I was listening to a podcast one time where they did a study, right? Where they took people and put them in a room where they had to be by themselves for 15 minutes without any technology or anything else. And they said that pretty much every single person who was in the study said that they were freaking out because they couldn't spend just 15 minutes alone by themselves. And there was actually a piece of equipment in the room that would shock you, and people literally went and found and started shocking themselves because they preferred to do that than to spend time by themselves with their own thoughts. So people are so petrified of being alone, but I can tell you right now, I want nothing more than to be able to spend 15 minutes by myself. I spend 20 minutes by myself every morning when I first wake up meditating, and I just get to be by myself with my own thoughts about and work out what I want to do and how I can improve myself, and then go for walks by yourself. Take yourself out to dinner. Date yourself.
Yeah.
If you just got out of a relationship, date yourself. People will look at you a bit weird because you go, when you turn up to a restaurant, you say a table for one, and they'll be like, who cares what anyone thinks? You're dating yourself. You're showing yourself that you are worth it. When you realize, I can promise you this right now, when you realize what your actual worth is, and you only get to do that by being alone and spending time with yourself and working on yourself, will you realize how you deserve to be treated. And then you will stop taking treatment that you don't deserve. You won't end up in bad relationships anymore or anything else because you'll be like, no, I don't deserve this. You're going to communicate to that person, and they either change their behavior to treat you right or you leave. And that's the only thing about it, because you will protect your own internal happiness with so much vigor that nothing can penetrate that.
Yeah.
And that's the actual point where you need to get to. If you're finding yourself being caught up in getting used in relationships and guys that ghosting you and all those other things, forget about all that. Go focus on yourself.
Yeah, 100%. Focus on yourself. That's how you attract the people you want to be.
100%.
And focus. If you want someone who's working out, they're fit and healthy, focus on yourself. You work out, be fit and healthy.
Facts.
I think that's a silly thing. People want certain traits and personality types in these people, and they're not even that.
Yeah.
It's why would someone who's fit and healthy date you when you're not even fit and healthy and working out yourself?
Yeah.
It's those types of people attract each other.
Yeah.
So I think whatever you want in a girl or a guy, that's what you need to focus on becoming.
Yeah.
It's just focus on yourself. And I think that's a big reason. When you focus on yourself, it's going to take longer to find someone. I think it's going to be a more difficult journey. But if you're comfortable being alone, as you mentioned, because if I was jumping between relationships, like some of these people I see, as you mentioned, if it takes 3 months out of you every time you break up, it's like a vicious cycle. You get in a relationship, break up, and you recover. Get in a relationship, break up, recover.
It's not even recovering. That's the thing. I literally saw a TikTok the other day of a girl, and she says, getting ready to see another guy whilst wiping my tears away, or trying not to cry because of my ex or whatever, or because of you.
I already know what the comments were.
And it's just it's crazy because it's and the comments were oh, it's okay, girl, blah, 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 go, girl, you do you, blah, 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 all this sort of stuff. And it's no.
Don't encourage her to that.
Don't, you can't, stop, this is one of the biggest things I hate. That guy who she's going on a date with, he may have actually looked after himself and done all those things and been in a really good place in his life. And then you're going to go out there and you're going to go on a date with him, and then you might end up getting him to fall for you, but you're completely broken, still loving someone else. That's so unfair because you're a broken person dating to try and keep yourself busy and occupied so you don't think about someone else. and then you turn around and you break someone else who doesn't deserve to be broken, who's perfectly good and who wants to treat you exactly how you think that you want it, like you say you want to be treated, but you're not ready to receive that right now.
It's disrespectful.
It's exactly right. And it's like, and it ends up leading to this culture of broken people ending up breaking other people, and it's just broken people dating broken people.
Yeah.
That's what modern dating is right now.
Pretty much. And then because they're broken, they get to the point where they go, oh, someone broke me, therefore I'm allowed to break someone else.
Absolutely.
That doesn't make any sense at all.
No.
This person, as you mentioned, he could be a lovely guy.
It's just unfair to put like that sort of like, if you're not whole yourself, you're not meant to be dating. You should be spending your entire time fixing yourself.
Yeah.
And that's okay. It's actually totally okay to be fixing yourself and to be on that journey.
I think it's better than
else.
okay. I think it's fantastic.
And so like there's so much negative like connotations and like this stigma around being alone right now. It's like, no, if you're broken, focus on becoming a better you, and then the right person who you actually have been searching for this whole time is going to treat you right will actually find you, because you've now focused on becoming the better person. You've focused on being someone whole, and then you can attract someone whole.
Exactly. And on the point you said about dating yourself, right? I think it's a great way to frame it. Like, date yourself. There was a girl that I was just talking to on Instagram, and she posted a story of like out on getting dinner. And I knew she's no way she's on a date, because she wouldn't post that for a first date. And I know she's single. I was like, is she out with a friend? I'm not too sure. I didn't question her, but we were just chatting, and she said she had like heaps of people saying, oh my God, who are you dating? And she just went on a date by herself. Exactly that. She had all these guys saying, oh, you're alone? Oh, I'll take you out. Yeah. And she's like, no, I'm just out eating dinner, trying to be by myself.
Facts.
Exact situation.
Facts.
And I think it's a massive sign of maturity as well.
100%.
I think so much. I think a big sign of going on Tinder when you not want to meet up, broken people, going on a date with someone. I think it's immature, disrespectful to that person.
Absolutely.
And it's become very, very normal in Australia. I don't know about the rest of the world.
Around the world, it's like as well. It's like the same. It's just the current culture, and it's sad, because whoever you like, the person you break ends up having all these insecurities and stuff coming into the next one, being like, because they're like, well, what if this next person is the same? And that's one of the reasons why I don't date very much, because I'm like, or if I do, like, I need, like, I do a lot of like fact finding from them and work out where they actually are in life, and make sure that they're actually on like I want to date someone who's on a personal development. So as long as you're on a journey of self-discovery, then I'm okay with it. If you're just like doing nothing and you're just going and partying all the time and doing that sort of stuff, like, hats off to you, you're enjoying your 20s, no problem, that's what you want to do. That's just not the kind of person that I want to attract and want to date. And when I was your age, I'm 26 now, but yeah, when I was your age, like, I was very much, I want someone who knows what they want and do a lot, and that's why I ended up just like struggling for ages, not finding anyone and not really dating anybody. And I was just like, you know what, I know that I'm at an age where I'm not going to find that, so I'm just going to focus on myself.
That's what I'm doing
right now. And so like, I've been so addicted for like so long, finding myself and making sure that I'm the best that I can and focusing on progress, that it's extremely hard for a girl to come along and change that, because if I don't see the future with it, then I'm just not willing to do that. And maybe I have thrown away good opportunities with girls who are perfectly fine, but like, it's protect my inner peace and things at all costs is where I really want to get to. And yeah, I mean, like that, the girl I work with, like, that was one that I was pretty like adamant that we were on like the same path. Didn't end up working out because there were other things that didn't align within our values and stuff, and that was it. But yeah, very, very, very particular.
Yeah, no, I think it's good though. I think not many people do it. I think many people fill the hole by just trying to find someone. I think this conversation is really important. I think the key thing that you said was date yourself and I guess be comfortable being alone. I think if you can be comfortable being alone, you're ahead of the game, especially for this generation. Like 15 minutes, that experiment, that's sad. That's so sad.
And it's super interesting. But here's the other thing that you'll find when you date yourself and stuff. You'll actually become a lot more confident and you'll be a lot more individualized as a person. And so you'll actually be super threatening to a lot of guys who want like a weaker woman, right? because they want to know that they can control the situation and everything else, and they get whatever they want. And so if you actually focus on yourself and you focus on building yourself to being as good, and like you're super confident and you're really proud of everything that you're doing and what the growth you've achieved and everything else, then you'll actually weed out a lot of really weak men who will never actually be good enough for you because of the fact that they're looking for a woman who will just like submit to anything that they want, which is actually not a position that you want to be in, because then you don't have any power. And a relationship should be even and equal. So you'll actually then find that you level up yourself and the people you end up dating, who will actually also like be super supportive of you chasing your goals and your dreams and doing all those sorts of things, because they'll be doing that as well. And so like that's actually what you want. You want to be with someone who's going to do that and is not just going to expect you to just like submit to everything that you want. And so like 100% date yourself.
I think it's a massive red flag if
100%.
There's a guy who wants that. Like, why do they want that? They want power? I think it's because ego issues. I think there's multiple things there. But I think it's a big red flag in this scenario.
Literally. So, become a powerful woman. That's what I'll say.
Yeah.
And it's like someone who is really focused on becoming as powerful as I can as well. Like, that is extremely attractive.
I agree. But it's also like, make your own opinion.
Facts.
Form your own opinion.
100%.
This is a big thing I talk about on TikTok. I don't know if you've noticed. This is actually really interesting. So I've noticed recently, when I started my TikTok account, I was like, I'm not going to delete any comments. I'll let it be raw. But what I realized is if you get one negative comment and that gets pushed to the top and get lots of likes, people will see one of my videos, they'll click on it, and they won't be able to form their own opinion. And as soon as they see all the negative comments, they'll go, oh yeah, actually, yeah, screw this guy. But if I have all positive comments, they'll go, oh, actually, yeah, this is a great video, because they can't form their own opinion without seeing what other people are saying. Don't be a sheep. Form your own opinion with everything. If there's stuff you disagreed in this episode, that's great. There should be nothing in this where you just agree with everything in this episode. If you disagree, that's great, because you're forming your own opinion. And that's what I hope my listeners are doing. They're forming their own opinion. They disagree with stuff I say. They might question what I'm saying and don't blindly believe me. Anyways, as per last episode, when it comes to relationships and dating, what would your number one piece of advice be in this field, specifically for young people?
That's a super interesting one. Don't date someone because of the potential you see in them. Date them for actually who they are. It's probably like one of the biggest ones, because like I've made that mistake and it sucks when you get it when it ends up playing out and they were actually never going to be who you thought that they were going to be. Like it's just date them for who they are. Yes, like for their ambitions and that sort of stuff as well, but like who someone says they want to be and who they actually are can be two completely different things. So yeah, I guess on that, like really just base your attitude on people's actions rather than what they say.
Actions speak louder than results. That's like, they can say, if they bail, they can say, oh no, I'm really into you, I really want to hang out, but if they just keep never showing up, actions speak louder than words. They're clearly not interested. So yeah. Any final thoughts?
I don't know. Just focus on you. Like and there's nothing wrong with being alone. That's my other biggest one. Date yourself first. Literally date yourself first.
I think it's a big takeaway from this episode. Date yourself. Nothing wrong with being alone. In fact, it's encouraged. Spending time with yourself is 100%. A very powerful skill. 100%. Anyways, man, thank you so much for coming on that episode again. And just again, if people want to reach out to you, find out more, TikTok, Instagram.
TikTok, Instagram. It's .Alisdair. Alisdair spelled Alasdair.
Yep, and all the links will be in the description. Otherwise, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Cheers. Thank you very much, Byron.
Thank you so much for listening to this entire episode of the podcast. The fact that you would sit there and listen to me for so long is awesome, and I love you for that. Thank you so much. Just real quick, I am starting to speak at schools a lot more frequently now. So if you're in Australia, specifically Sydney, and either you're a student, maybe you're a teacher, or you've got a brother or sister in school, or you have any connections at all and you want me to come speak at a school or any presenting things, I am looking to ramp that up a lot. I've got a really cool school talk I've been working on for a few months now. I've just started speaking at a bunch of schools. It's been going really well. So yeah, go to the link in the show notes or go to drivenyoung.com and you'll see School Talks up the top, and just click on that and send me an email. Otherwise, yeah, figure out any way to get in contact with me. I've also got the Sexual Assault podcast, which is now live with Brent Sanders. Go check that out. It's called Consent and Consequences. That is a Driven Young Productions podcast. It's something I'm very proud of. So there's lots going on. Definitely go check it all out. Otherwise, thank you so much for listening to this entire episode, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day and week.